Can see from your screens. So today we are going to learn about how we can design um, a one-page responsive website. And what do I mean by responsive? Responsive is, we have different devices for different purposes. For instance, if you have a phone and you have a tablet and you have a laptop and then maybe a desktop with large screen, you should be able to view anything on it without not affecting the quality or the layout of the website. So responsive means that the website we are going to design has to fit every device that could be used to view. Okay, so on my desktop, you can see that the website spans across the screen. This is what we are going to design. We are going to go through the codes one by one, but the end result should be like this. So you can see that the whole website spans across the screen. Now, when I minimize the screen, or I minimize the screen to the smaller size, you can see that it has also fit the size of the device. So let's say this could be um, a phone with this size. The website should be able to fit without not affecting the layout. So you can see that as we minimized it, it has also fit into the size that we minimized into. As we are expanding it, you can see that the content are also expanding to fill or to fit the current screen. So this is what we mean by responsive. Okay. And this website is going to be just one page, which we are going to which will have navigation bars though, but the navigation will lead to content on the same page. So for instance, if I click on the about page, you see that it will take me to where we have the about, that's the about section. If I also click on the contact link, it will also take me down to where we have the contact section. We also have a drop down on it, and we are going to also learn how we can create this drop down. This class is going to be about 40 minutes, and then I'll send you other tutorials on it, about 2 or 3 on it. This is the last class in the HTML and then the CSS session. From next week, we are going to learn JavaScript. So it is important that we pay attention to this because we are not coming back to HTML and then CSS again. We're going to move forward to JavaScript and then we move on to other things. So this is going to be our end result. So let's just get started with the codes. I hope you understand the explanation up to this point.
Yes, please.
All right. So I'm going to take you through the code session. And this is what we have. Now, in starting a new website, you need to create a folder. Always, you need to create a folder which will contain all your assets, everything you are going to create. You think of, you write it down, and then you put them all in one folder so that when you start working, you will know that this is the folder I'm working through and everything I need is in this folder. So here, the folder I created for this project is on the desktop. It's on the desktop, and I'm going to share the screen on it so that you see, where is it? Okay. So I hope you can see the folder. As I'm moving about, you can see the folder.
Yes, I can see it.
Yes. So this is the folder I created. That is one page website. So I have my CSS folder, which I'll add my styles in. And then I have the images folder, which will contain all my images that I'm going to use. Then I also have the index. The index will be on the on inside that folder. And then have your text. If you are going to add other content like text about and everything, you also need to create a simple notepad text so that you can use it anytime you feel like copying something and putting it onto the website. Here, I'm going to show you how you can generate custom text, or we call it the dummy text in website. So we are not going to use this text here, but it's advisable that you create a text file in it so that you can use it. But here we are going to use the dummy text in website. All right, so let's go back to the code screen. Now, this is what we have. We have already coded it for the purpose of this class. So I'm going to copy it and then explain to you how they all work. So the first thing we are going to do, let me close these ones. The first thing we are going to do is to drag your folder onto the text editor, right? You drag your, welcome, Madam Noella. Can you hear me? All right, let's go on. So you drag your folder onto the text editor and you start creating your files one after the other. And you must know that the files you are going to create should be in that folder, which you have created, your project folder. Should not be outside the project folder. Okay, so you're going to create all your files in the project folder. So here I'm going to create a simple HTML file where I will start typing my HTML codes. So I'll click on file. I'm not going to use shortcuts for the purpose of the lesson. So I'll click on file and then go to new file. All right, so I'll have an untitled file here. So I'm going to save it in an HTML format so that I'll be able to write HTML codes. So I'll go to file and then click on save as. Then I have to go into the folder which I opened. So I'll go to the folder and then create my file. So let me create a new file. Create a new file, call it I'll call it home. No, I'll create a not this one. I'll create a new file and call it home.html. The extension HTML is very important because it will describe how the text editor should interpret the code. So you should add the HTML to it. Then I'll click on save. Now I have my first HTML file, that is home.html. So I'm going to create my HTML syntax for me to be able to write the HTML codes. So I'll just type HTML and then the text editor will suggest what I want to write. And that is why it is called an IDE, or the Integrated Development Environment. Okay. It understands the code you are writing and then interprets them for you and suggests a snippet for you to be able to use. Okay. Now I click on enter and automatically it takes me to the syntax. Now where I am is to write the title for my website. And the title I'm going to give to it is this simple website layout. And you all know that once I save this and then open it, I should find the simple website layout on the title of the web browser. And I know you are all aware of this. So I'll just give it a try for the purpose of the lesson. I'll right click on it and then open in browser. Now I have the opening browser here, and I hope you can see that the title is there. Simple website layout is on the title bar. And then where the folder is located is also here. I've highlighted it, and you can see where we are on the C and the users and the Aspire Ghana desktop one-page website folder that we created. Now we're on the home.html file. All right. So we go back to the. So we have this. Now we are going to create our links and then links to the CSS so that we can use our styles also from there. So we are going to add our links. You're all aware of these processes, so I will just speed up a bit. So our CSS was in a CSS folder. So we also need to add the folder name and then the CSS file. So we first have to make reference to the CSS folder before the CSS file. So we're going to css/style.css because it's in a CSS folder. So we must create it in order for it to make reference to the CSS folder. All right. Let's save it now. We don't have any code, so we'll save it now. Now we'll go into our index.html and then copy the first code, first HTML code, and then we'll bring it onto the screen. Then I'll explain for you. Then we'll go on to the CSS and I'll explain for you until we arrive at the final project. I hope we are all following.
Yes, please.
All right, the first code, first set of code is the header. Okay, so we have a div with a class header in it, then an HTML tag with my website, and then a P tag with websites created by me. Okay, so there is a header, HTML header we've created. So we'll go into the page and then refresh it and see what we have. So there is the page. So I'll refresh it and see what we have got. Now we have this header here. Now it is already linked to the CSS where we have the code. That is why it has styled it. So I'll go into the CSS file and then comment it out so that you can see what should have come onto the HTML. So I'll go into the CSS section. By the way, one of the things that we didn't talk about is comments, and I'm going to go over in this lesson. Okay, so there is what we have, and there is what we should have. We had an H1 tag with my website, and then a P tag with a website created by me. I hope you can see the browser. So now we will create a new CSS. We will create a CSS so that we can use to style our website.
Please, I have a question.
All right, go on.
Is there a different way to style HTML and then a different way to style CSS?
Now, HTML has CSS has two ways of styling. Now, CSS is the styling side for HTML. Now, you cannot style with HTML. Okay.
Sorry,
Whatever
sorry.
style.
I made a question. I made a mistake with the question. I meant, is there a different way to comment out HTML and then a different way to comment out CSS? That's what I meant.
Yeah. Yes, please. Yes, please. We have in HTML comments. Okay. Let's go over the comments. Okay, because we couldn't treat it in the earlier session. So we are taking a quick course in the comments. Now we're on the HTML file. Now, if you want to comment an HTML file, we use this, the left tag, then an exclamation sign, followed by 2 dash or 4 dash or number of dashes that you want to use. The end should be a closing tag. Okay. Now, at least you should have the open comment tag should be an open a less than sign. Let me use it, and then exclamation sign, then 2 dash. Okay. So this is how we write comments in HTML. So if I add this, I write this comment, anything I pass through this comment, it will not be shown on the HTML file. Okay. Anything I write inside the comment will not be included in the HTML codes. And we use comments to describe to others who didn't code with us how we were expecting the code to work. So for instance, if I add a comment here, like I add a comment like this. I add a comment like this, then I'll write, this is the website header. Okay. Anyone who pick up this code to read will know that at this point, he was creating a header for the website. Then I can copy it and then bring it here and write, this is the end of the website. This is the end of the website header. Okay, I hope you understand this. Now, whatever we've written here will not be found on the browser when we open it. When we open the HTML file in the browser, this comment, this is the end of the website, will not be on the browser. It is just to signal anyone who did not code with us to know how the code is working or to know how to treat the code. I hope we are clear on this.
Yes, please, it's clear.
So this is how to comment in HTML. Now in CSS, it is not like HTML. In CSS, we use slash, then then the asterisk. Then we close it with the slash again. So whatever thing we write inside this would also not function. It will also be a comment and inform anyone who reads our code what we were trying to do. So at this point, we're going to say that this is, so at this point, we say that this is the styling. This is the styling on the header. Okay. So this will inform anyone who wants to read our code or who takes our code our code that this is what we were doing in the CSS. We were trying to style the CSS at this point. And then in the home HTML, it is saying that there is the website header. So the person will know that at this point, these 4 lines of code, we use these 4 lines of code to create the header, which we can find on the browser. So this is what we created, the H1 tag and then the P tag. All right, hope we are clear on this.
Yes, please.
All right. So we are going to the text editor, then we will add our styles to the header we created. Now we need to add another one here. So there's the, okay. This is the end of the styling on the header. So we are going to bring our code on the header. We will now put the code for the header in the CSS session. Now I'm going to explain to you what these codes are doing. Now the first thing is a header class. As you can see, we created a class with the name header. So we need to add the dot operator on it so that we can create the header class. Now the padding here is please can you mute your audio, please? Please. All right. Now this header class will, this header class is describing the name we have in the div class, which is the header. So in the class session or in the class element, we use the dot to depict it. That's why we have the dot on it. Now the padding with 80 pixels is where the content or everything around the content is going to span across top, left, and then right, and then bottom at 80 pixels. So we can have the header, but it will span across a certain area. Okay. Now the text align is also means that the text in it or the website we created will center in the middle of the header, and then the color is going to be white. So once we save it and then we go on to reload it, we go on to our browser and then reload it, we can see that this is the styling we added to it. So it is padding 80 here, and then 80, and then 80 all across. So since it's a header, it's going to span on the surface we have. So if you are using a phone, it's going to span according to the size of the phone you are using. Remember, we are creating a responsive website. This is what we are going to create after. This is what we should see after the lesson. So it is going to span across, and when we minimize it, they are also going to be minimized to fit the size of the device we are using. Okay. Okay. All right. So we are back to our project. So this header H1 is the H1 tag we have here. Now we did not use any class on it, so we can use these tags. We call them the pseudo tags. So we use them as they are. We can add a class or an ID to it, but we decided to leave it that way. Now, when we do this way, what we are expecting is that anytime we create an H1 tag without a class, the styles we have on the H1 will affect everything that has H1 tag. This is the risk we are taking. If we create an H1 tag without giving it a class or an ID, every style we apply to it will apply to every style we use H1 for. So for instance, we have created H1 with my website. If I decide to create another H1 with another name, let's say my name, whatever style we have on the H1 will also affect this one, except that we differentiate them and give this one a class or an ID. Other than that, everything we have done on the H1, like this one, the font size 40, it will affect this one too. So that is the risk involved. Now I hope you are clear on the header so that we can move on to the nav bar.
Yes, please.
All right. So we go into our index.html where we have our codes, and then we will copy, then bring it to our home. Now we must not forget that we need to also write a comment on this to tell the one who is going to read our code that this is what we were doing at this session. So this is where we will add our nav bar, and then let's try and keep our code very neat. Yeah. All right. So this is our nav bar, and then let's show where our nav bar ends. So this is the end of our nav bar. This is the end of our nav bar. We also go into our style, then copy the codes from there.
Hello? When they talk, you don't listen. You're gonna buy. Please, I can't see the code.
Oh, okay. We're on the. Can you see now? Please,
Yes, I can see it now.
Okay. So we're going to use this screen. So now you can go on there, then copy the codes from here. Quite a lot. So here we also need to create our comments to show what we are doing here. So we add the codes here. Now let me explain it. Now at this point, we are creating a nav bar, and then we give a class of top nav. So there is it, the div class with the name top nav. So this is what we are going to use to start on the parent body. So we start from the top nav, then we will come to the active class, then we will come to drop down class, then we come to drop down button class, then we do it chronologically so that we know the progress we've gotten to. So at this point, we start on the top nav, which is the basic thing or the biggest container on it, which all the elements are found. And then here we have the top nav links. So this A means links. And here what you have done also means that if we have anything with this name, the A as the link, all the styles here will affect it. So on the top now, we give an overflow to be hidden. So when there was an overflow of elements, those elements which comes after the official element should be hidden. And then the background color, we give this color to it. So the color code is here, and we will know what that color is. So we came to the top nav link, and then we used float. And float means that the position of the link, where we want them to be. So we said we want them to be on the left side. So when we run it, you can see that our nav bar is going to float left. Now let me save this and then reload it. Now, I hope you can see the browser.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so this is what we had. So the elements are now floated to the left side. Okay. In the same way, we can also float them to the right side, and they are all going to move to the right side. So now we said it's a left float, so they all move to the left side. Now, how do we want to display it? We want to display them in block. That means that every item should be on its lane. Okay, we can do them in line, and then they are going to, but now we're saying they should be, everyone should be on its lane. So they are going to be on their lane. Now the color is black. The color of the links, we are working on the links. So the color is black. The text align is that the text should be at the center. And you see when I hover on it, you can see that there are spaces around the left, the side, and then top on the right side, because the link is supposed to be in the center. So they are in the center. Now we are padding them, and padding also becomes part of the link. Okay. There are spaces around the item which are formed part of the item. Okay, other than margin. Margins are not part of the item, but padding becomes part of the item. I hope we understand. Okay, so we had to apply a Hoover effect on it. That is the top nav link dot Hoover. Now, this means that there's an effect where when we move the mouse over it, an animation will show that something is happening to the, so we can see that once we hover our mouse on it, this one with the Hoover effect of red, it shows red. And this one with, I think, a dark gray color also shows dark gray. So that's the effect we added to it. We can also change the Hoover color. So let's say yellow. And when I add yellow and then save it, if I reload it, whenever I hover over it, the colors will change to yellow. Except this one. This one, we styled them differently. So we reach there. So this one, when we hover on it, the colors will turn to yellow. Okay. Now let's go to the HTML and then try to add more links to it so that they can fill our space for us. We have lots of spaces there. So I'll copy them and then I'll copy, then let me remove the class from this side. Okay, we have lots of elements on it, though they are the same thing repeating. So we have lots of elements on it. Now we can see that as I'm hovering over it, the background changes to yellow. We can also change the actual color of the text. So that means if I want, when I hover on it, I should get a red text. It's also going to do the same. So let me change this black to red for you to see how they all work. So if I hover on it, you see that the background will be yellow and the color will be, the actual text will be red. So this is what we are going to have. All right. So we move on to the active. Now we have a class here with the name active. that is the text which is currently selected. So here we added a background color, and this is the background color, and that is what we find there. So let's try and change it and see. Let's say black. So whenever we are on a page or an item is selected, we want the background to be black. So we will refresh it and see that the color has changed to black. We can also change, we can use any colors we want to use. So this is for practical sake. Now we move on to something I don't want us to talk about is the input. That is, it is not on the HTML, so I'm going to remove it. All right. So here, in the beginning of the course, I said that whatever device we use to view the website, the content should be able to conform to the size of the device. So this is the most important part. Here we are creating a media screen for each of the devices we want. So we say that at media screen and maximum width of 600 pixels, what should happen? So now if you have a device with maximum size of 600 pixels, what should happen? We are saying that this should be the styling on it, the top nav, the link, top nav, and then the input. They should all float none, which they should not float. They should display block, and then the text align should be on the left. The width should be 100%. The margin should be 0, and the padding 14. So now at this point, if we minimize our screen like this, we can see that the stylings we have applied to it have affected here. So now they have all displayed block. They have all become in their lane, and they are not floating. And then they are spanning, their weight is spanning 100%. Okay, so there is it. So as we are moving or expanding it, they will also be conforming to the styling we use for it. There is pure HTML and then CSS styling. Okay. So we also go to the drop down. And now we are saying that the drop down should float left, and then the overflow should be hidden. We go to the drop down button, which we have here. This one, the drop down button, this is the class name. So the drop down button, the outline should be none, the color should be black, the pattern and everything, the styling are all here. Okay. So you can see that the color is black here, the links are black. Now, what we are saying is that what if we hover on it, and this is the session where we hover on it, drop down, hover. When we hover on it, the display should be blocked, and then the background, everything should be on. So on the content, okay, the drop down content, the background color is what we have. So let's change it to maybe blue. Okay, when we change it to blue, when I hover on it, you see that the background has changed to blue. Okay, the background has changed to blue. Now, if I go on to the drop down button, where I have the background color inherit, the background color, if I change to, let me say, green, I'll go and then, now I change the background color to green. So when I hover on it, it turns into red. And then when I hover on the links, it turns into, the background turns into blue. So that is what we have done so far. I hope we understand up to this point.
Yes, please.
All right. So we go into our index HTML and then we copy our hero session. Then bring it to the, here we should also do the commenting, but as you have understood the process, I'm not going to go on to it again. So I'm going to save it and then go to the styling. Then copy the hero session. Something missing from this side. All right. So there is the hero session we have here. Now we've not gotten to this point, but we have the codes inside the hero session. That is why it has displayed. So we are going to ignore this one and go to the Hoover. When we add the styles, they will go into their appropriate place. So this is the hero session we have, and it is telling us welcome to Course Guide Online Education. So I'm going to go over the HTML and show you what we are doing. The HTML was, we created an H1 tag, and I told you that when we use the H1, whatever style we apply to the H1 will also be applied to every H1 that we create. So that is what happened. So we have our text and then our classes here. We have our BG image. Then this is where our form container came in, but we are going to ignore this one, then go to the, after we come back to it. So there is the header, and we get not this one. So this is the hero image, and then we have our background image, linear gradient with these styles here. The height is 50%. Background position is the center, and then we said it should not repeat. Now the size should cover the space. Then the position should be relative. The hero text we have, that is the welcome to the course guide education, is also text aligned centered, position absolute, with the top of 50%. That is, it should separate itself from the top at 50%. Then the left should also be 50%. We also transform and translated. And then we had the column to be float left and then 25%. I think this one is not affected. So this is entirely about the hero image. Now we go to the, where we have the forms. Where we have the forms, I think, okay. Then we'll add it to, because we want to deal with our form once and for all. So we add the styles to it, and when we reload it, see that they have moved to their rightful position. This is where they should be. Now here we created a login form, and you are aware how we created our login form. We had a project on it, few people submitted it. So you are aware how you can create this form and then fill them, the login form. Okay. So since we have had a project on it, we are not going to go on to how we created it. Then we move on to another side. Our class will end in about 3 minutes because we were all late. So we go to the okay, let me add the about section. Then I'll go to the CSS and then I'll bring my about section. Now we have our about section here. Now let's take a critical look at something here. when we go into the HTML file, we can see that the reference were on the about section. That is the container IDs that we created. So here in the HTML, we created a section that is an about section with an ID. Okay, the ID is, that means that we want to, when we click on a nav on the nav bar or a link on the nav bar, it should take us to a particular section. So that is why we use the IDs. So here we use the hashtag about section. That means that if we click on the about section, about link, it should take us to the about section as we had on the on our where is it? This one. Okay. On our project screen. Okay. So with this one, if I click on the about, so this should be the end of our project. So if I click on the about, it should take me to where we have the about section. And if I click on the contact,